And we're not required to have. All right, good evening. We're starting a few minutes late, so apologies to those, if any, in Facebook land. But we are now calling to order the 6 p.m. study session for the North Augusta Planning Commission for February 15th, 2023. Thank you. All right, Mr. Paradise, you want to go over what you've got for us to work on today with the development code?
Yes, ma'am. And I would, and I will say this later on too, but we were having trouble hearing y'all again last month.
Okay.
So please make sure your mic's on and speak up. The first thing I have on here is about off-site signage. And I checked with the city attorney, and he researched it and found a Supreme Court decision that said you could regulate or prohibit off-site signage. So the question is, so that question as far as the legality has been asked and answered. This decision was after the Reed decision that upended the sign ordinances all over the country. So it's good law, relatively new law. But the question is that something that the commission wants to add as a prohibited signage in the new draft?
So, I had mixed, I guess, feelings about it, because I think that in some instances when we're using access roads and other places, I think that it made sense. But and we talked about that being the exception. I think generally speaking, though, I'm not a huge fan of off-site signing.
I'd agree with that. I think that having the ability to approve them on a case-by-case basis would be good. But as far as just a blanket approval,
I know they can't hear you.
you know they can't hear.
Okay.
There you go.
But I said I would agree with that. A blanket approval, I don't know, but a case-by-case, still having the option when it does warrant an off-site signage and being able to come to this body or go to the BZA, I think that avenue is still there. So I would say it's good to.
I concur.
So add that in the draft for prohibited signage.
Yes, please.
The second item that we had was public use signage in the P, public use district. Y'all had a reference back to the freestanding signs for the schools. And I did go back and looked at those variance requests, and they requested a 40 square foot sign. And 60% of that was electronic message center, and the other 40% being static standard sign. Basically, you have the name of the school, and up underneath it, the electronic readable. And then the other thing in the memorandum that I gave you shows the signage for the various zoning districts we currently have. Most of them have a 300 square foot maximum with 100 square feet for a freestanding sign. Neighborhood commercial is 60 square feet for freestanding. Most all of them have 10%, a maximum of 10% for 300 square feet for wall signs, except neighborhood commercial, which is 160. And the maximum wall signage for neighborhood commercial is 200 square feet. I was thinking, and then you have the overlays in the industrial district, which I found it interesting that wall signage is not allowed in the industrial district, which is something, while we're here, you may want to address. But that, I was thinking that might give you a good standard to look at and see what size you might want to move forward with, whether it be like office commercial, general commercial, or neighborhood commercial. Would be the three that I would recommend that you look at. Of course, you know.
Off the bat, I would lean towards the neighborhood commercial limits, given that P's are in neighborhoods. Schools located in middle of neighborhoods, fire stations, etc. I think a neighborhood commercial is a good standard to set for that.
All right. And does anybody have any problems with the way we currently have office in general?
And Mr. Key, just to bring you up to speed, we talked about off-site signage, and the consensus was to make it prohibited since there's been a Supreme Court decision that would allow the city to do that.
Did you have a different opinion on? Oh, okay. And then we were talking about, in referencing the memorandum number 23-005, we're just going over the signage standards that we currently have. So neighborhood looks, I think, good to us, and I guess by silence, perhaps office in general, I think good to everyone. I also don't have a problem with industrial having wall signage, being allowed to have max wall signage in keeping with the other. So I think general commercial, and office commercial, that signage requirements, I think are, so I guess maybe for walls, I think is also acceptable. I can't imagine why you wouldn't allow walls.
When you
Oh,
turn your head,
I'm
we
sorry.
can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't imagine why you wouldn't allow walls in industrial.
Yeah. I can't either.
You can't hear.
We want to make sure that we get everything recorded. When we're doing the minutes, we're having trouble hearing y'all.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be a good steward to our secretary in the morning so I'm not in trouble, and make sure we get it recorded good.
Wasn't there some issues with the signage size on the commercial?
Well, what we're looking for, first thing we're looking for, there's two issues I think that's come up. One is, this is the size signage, you've got the chart here in front of you, that gives you what we currently allow in the different zoning districts. There's nothing, the public use is not addressed. So do you want to recommend a signage size for the public use district? And on top of that, in doing this, wall signage is prohibited in the industrial districts. So you want to allow wall signage on those. So those are the two issues that I think we're working on now.
So I would think for, I would say for public use, I'd recommend neighborhood commercial, because that tends to be where public use is.
I agree with that.
And then on the second, everybody can chime in on both of those. Then I think, again, think we should use allow walls in industrial using the general commercial maximum of all wall signs.
Well, we need to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all, are we good with neighborhood commercial for public use signs? If we can.
Again, just for clarification, you talked about the existing signs that are at Paul Knox and Mossy Creek. Does
Those are 40 square feet.
Those are, okay, so they would fit in the neighborhood commercial. Yeah, so if
Right.
Hammond Hills needed to put up, or somebody else needed to put up a new sign, they're not being restricted to a smaller signage than the neighborhood elementary, other competing schools have in the area already.
Correct.
All right, yeah. As long as it all fits, I'm in favor of that, yeah.
Mr. D?
You got the neighborhood, the standard is 40, what they have primarily.
What the school district has asked variances for and had installed at the schools is about 40 square feet. The neighborhood commercial allows 60. So they're actually lower than, what you can do in a neighborhood commercial.
So we're gonna maintain the standard of the lower one, or we're gonna go generic to the large?
I think the other three was like 60 square feet.
Yeah, so the maximum is a 60 square feet, so I wouldn't, and if it were a business in the same area, they could do 60 square feet. So I don't know why I would restrict the schools. I think the schools have requested 40 square feet, kind of as a standard, but I think that,
I'm on the same
Correct.
page.
okay, yeah, should they desire to go bigger, I think they should be able to go as large as a commercial in the same area would be allowed to do.
We're, we had a big discussion about, there was a church sign on Old Edgefield Road. They were trying to sell the property, or they were trying to put a new sign up. And what was the deal? I can't remember. What was the deal?
Was that Be Ye Holy?
No,
It-
that was before.
It's right up from Summerfield,
I
the
don't
old
know.
Summerfield annex. It's
I think it were a couple things. I think it was the size. And don't quote me on this because I may be wrong. And I think it was also maybe the speed or something. There were things that the sign
did not
company
fit, that they were asking, they had gotten a good buy or something, or had already purchased the sign. And it didn't meet.
If it is the one I think you're talking about, it's on Old Edgefield,
Correct.
right up from the school, kind of
Right.
across from the park.
Correct.
They've got an application for a variance request next month. It'll be heard in March. This wouldn't affect them.
Okay.
This was years ago. This was
This was probably 2-3 years ago. It was
Yeah.
before my time when Libby was here.
yeah.
Right, okay.
But yes, we're moving that application forward. But that is in a residential district,
Right.
so, yeah. Okay, neighbor, and you want to keep that at 160 or 10% of the wall? As far as the wall signage, and a maximum of 200 square feet?
Yes, I think.
Okay. And then, when we look at the industrial, and you say use general commercial, you have a maximum of 300 square feet. So do you want to change industrial to a maximum of 300 square feet? Do you want to take all these, both wall signs, freestanding signs, everything, and move down? Because you've got a maximum of 200 square feet. Freestanding area is 150 square feet. So that would leave them with, you could have, if I bring down wall signs for general commercial, that's 300 square feet, which is more than the 200 square feet maximum they're allowed. That makes sense.
Say that one more time,
Okay.
please.
If I remember correct, you said use the general commercial.
Right.
Okay, general commercials allowed 300 square feet or 10% of the wall surface, whichever's less.
I got you. I see what you're saying now. So that when I was saying to move it, then I would need to make the maximum wall signs from 200 to 300 for industrial. Okay.
That would work.
Yeah.
And, all right, maximum of all signs to 300 too, right?
Right.
Y'all moving along tonight.
Because I know in some industrial areas they do that by design, but I think it makes it more confusing than anything else when they minimize signage in industrial areas.
So they've got the 150 feet maximum freestanding.
Right.
But, and I'm just thinking about one that I go by quite often, that they've got the name up on the side of the building there, so. All right. Anything else we need to look at on signs?
So everybody's okay, so office commercial, general commercial, everybody's okay with those general? I'm assuming so, since we just copied general commercial for industrial.
And of course, unless my notes are wrong from last month or the last meeting, we'll also allow electronic message centers in the P public use district.
Yes.
And we're splitting new code downtown mixed use 1 and 2 on the signs, right? Are we gonna allow freestanding in downtown mixed use 2? That'd have been like Shop 3130 or insurance agencies along the backside. And I think right now they've got them listed together.
I believe you do, and I believe I missed that. All right, so downtown mixed use 2, and here we have, let's go back to the sign chart here. When you say, okay, you can have a freestanding sign there. Well, what size freestanding sign do we want? And wall signage, you know, what criteria do you want to put them into as far as numbers go? And just by the way, after the meeting last month, and I rode up West Avenue, and I was shocked at the number of freestanding signs. When you ride by it every day, you tend to forget them. So would you want to do something more of the Georgia Avenue overlay with a 20 square foot max? Neighborhood preservation, which I think it's in now, would be 60 square feet maximum. Now, I don't know how you can have 160 square feet of wall signage with a maximum of 100 square feet. I don't know if that's a typo or if that's what it really says. I think it's what it really says. So we may want to correct that one while we're here too.
Yeah.
We don't,
But I think the neighborhood preservation may be the most fitting for that district, because you have a maximum height of 10 feet. Either that or Georgia Avenue overlay, but I think that when I ride up there and look and see what you have now, I think 20 square feet would be kind of small for some of those occupancies along there. And of course,
Have,
the-
there are standards in the signs, the freestanding signs. Are there standards in the freestanding signs? When you went up West Avenue, they were a collage of different signs, right?
correct. Yeah, some were internally illuminated, some were not illuminated at all.
But do we have we don't have a standard of what you can, are we restricting in size? We'll be.
We were primarily talking about size. We could certainly get into design criteria. I don't, you know, the sign code's fairly new, so I didn't think y'all really wanted to get too bogged down with the signs, but we can go there if you like.
No, I'm not inviting more scrutiny. I was just, if we're regulating size, and then somebody has a light board, a scroll, what do they call those?
Readable, electric.
Yeah, the ticker tape type thing was going across, supposedly creates accidents or something like that.
That wouldn't be allowed. That would be prohibited. If it's an electronic message center, that wouldn't be allowed in that particular district. really what you're doing is looking at size. What is the appropriate size?
Because they have some of those A-frame, like tent type signs, and then some, like real estate signs that are.
Yeah, and really what we're looking at is more the permanent type signs. The A-frame signs would come under temporary signage, and we work with those.
I would lean towards the George Avenue overlay signage size. But I'd want to do a little bit more homework and check in on if we put that on there, how many of the existing signs would that make non-conforming?
Well, I think of,
It wouldn't be an issue for them. I just don't want,
well, and the thing is are they out of character for the district now? And if they're not out of character,
true.
but I can think of, there's a bank, I'm thinking the gymnastics or dance, I think they've got one out front. I know the bank has one because that's internally illuminated. And there's a fairly new one there. I can't remember what that is. Oh, it's some kind of doctor's office, medical office. And I can't, we have the chamber. We've got the builder. We've got the mayor's office there, which is a shingle sign. We have Rollins.
Those are probably all fit George Avenue overlay.
Some would, some wouldn't. The bank would not.
That, yeah.
And I don't, if I don't think the gymnastics would either if it's the one, if the sign I got in my picture's really there, what I'm thinking in my mind. If you think about it, if you think about a 4x8 sheet of plywood, that's 32 square feet plus the post. Well, that wouldn't be allowed because it's only 20 square feet. 20 square feet is going to get you probably half of that. Half of a sheet of plywood.
Which is probably more in keeping with the aesthetic.
I would say so.
Yeah.
For the freestanding, I think still
Mhm.
have a wall sign as well.
I would never put up a 20-foot. Waste of time. So I don't think, in my mind's eye, I was gonna pull up Google Earth and tool down it.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about for conformity of what's already there. I think that 20 square foot would be kind of teeny.
Well, but that's what's already, because we're talking about, so you're talking about West Avenue, and so a block over from from Georgia overlay, so I don't know that. So yeah, you're talking about like, so that'll be 5x4, not including it, but that's without a post, so. But
Right.
also, I wouldn't exactly, you gotta have a post, but, 2x10, I don't want.
Right. Yeah.
If you have a 20 square foot, you're probably going to get more of the, I call them shingle signs
Okay.
with the arm and like that. That's not internally illuminated. If it's a 60 square foot sign, you could get more of the post, the double post of 32 square feet. plyboard kind size.
I think for that area, I'm fine with the shingle, the arm.
That is specific to that area we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay.
That would include all of downtown mixed use too. All right, so you want to go with Georgia Avenue overlay. Okay. And then in the neighborhood preservation overlay, do we want to do anything there? On the maximum of all wall signs?
That's going away, isn't it?
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, it's mixed use too,
Yep.
right?
Okay.
But until then, we'll just keep an eye on it.
Well, now that brings back a question because, and I'm asking for guidance here. On off-site advertising, we have not received any applications, but we have been approached for discussion about them. I don't know how long it's going to take this to get through, council and become effective. And I guess my question is that something that y'all would like to see move forward and be on the agenda for next month? That would be a fairly simple fix and fix the stopgap. Keep anybody from coming in and doing that in the meantime.
Yeah, so we would just need to vote to eliminate off-site signage until development code is approved.
We would amend the existing code
Okay.
to include it, but I don't want to do that without some kind of guidance from you. I just don't want to put it on an agenda for you.
So no, we would like to see that. I think though, if you could talk with staff to make sure that they're on board with that
We'll do it.
for council, so there's no.
Yep. I got you.
Yeah, to make sure that they're okay with that, so we're not stopping something that we then gotta undo.
The folks that I've been talking to, I don't think council would have any problems with that.
Okay, if you could, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on signage? All right. The next one, Mr. Harbison opened up a can of worms last time. Thank goodness. 'Cause this was a miss on staff's part. But there's a significant difference between a conservation subdivision in the existing ordinance and what is in the proposed ordinance. And really, the proposed ordinance, there's not a good definition, there's no incentives for it, and nothing that says, okay, you've got to, this is what it is. It's almost like you could say, okay, this is a conservation subdivision. Okay, it's a conservation subdivision, so what? So what I did was I included a copy of the existing ordinance for your review so you could compare the two, and you can take out any, mix and match as you want to. In looking at it, the easier thing, and maybe the best thing, I sure don't have all the answers, but maybe just say, hey, let's keep the conservation subdivision we got. We've only had one of those, and in that case, it worked for us. But that's just an idea.
No, that was gonna be my recommendation, so I don't know if there are any. That was actually, you beat me to it, because that's what I was on.
Dr. Crawford, I like it when I think like you. All right, is that what y'all want to do with it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That was the one we had
Yeah, the room full.
We had a room full. That's when they were wanted to make it. It was going to be our first conservation development.
I don't think I've ever had one in all the years.
That was a first.
That was the first? Oh.
And the other thing that I had on my notes to talk about was short-term rentals. And I think that's something, I talked to Rachel about that, and the direction was not to move forward with it right now. That's something that council is looking at. We want to drill down, look at some other jurisdictions, and do that as kind of a separate item. So that's why I have you a memo written, but I didn't put it in your agenda packet because of that. We went to a meeting last week about short-term rentals, and it was very informative. So we're on the learning curve of that.
Describe the scope of short-term rental.
That's to be determined. You know, is it 7 days? Is it 29 days? Is it 30 days? You know, what is a short-term rental? It's
And
not.
that's in- and
It's
that's
not. It won't be designed to stop somebody from renting their house to somebody month after month after month. You know, like a regular rental house. It will be designed to regulate at some point. You know, people renting their houses for a week or a weekend, that type of thing.
Now, we're talking about across the board from neighborhoods, period.
We're talking about, you have your short-term rentals, which is a defined use, just like any other use. What zoning districts should they be in? And out of those zoning districts, should they be a conditional use? And if it is a conditional use, what conditions should those be? Did that answer your question?
Well, yeah. So you're talking about, are we mainly talking about Airbnbs and?
That's the type of Airbnbs, VRBO, those type things.
Right, and how to limit Airbnbs without eliminating Masters Week rentals that a lot of people rely on.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
fight about that.
We're not going to, yes.
Yeah, how to state that clearly.
Has there been a push, you're talking about different municipalities, there were a lot of customers that were moving from Atlanta that had, nice condominiums, and they were doing very well, until their neighbors got ticked because of the in and out of the, and then they restricted, so they went from making 25,000-30,000 a year to Zippo. So we're trying to give structure, mainly, not necessarily.
We don't know. I think that's what the
That-
discussion is.
That's what the discussion is to be about, what kind of structure to give it, and, where should it be? What should the regulations be? The whole gamut. I don't think it is to outlaw it. One of my concerns has been the impact on traditional neighborhoods. One of the things in the seminar was putting limits in neighborhoods of percentages and different ways to control it so that that particular use doesn't overtake a traditional neighborhood with people that live there 365. That is the balance, is how do you allow that without losing the character of your neighborhoods and that feeling of security people have in their neighborhoods, and maintaining, even today, you may not, it may not be like when I was growing up, all the kids running in the neighborhood and stuff, but you know your neighbor, you know their car, you know, even if you don't talk to them, you know who they are. And if it's an Airbnb or short-term rental next door, that changes every week. So, yeah, how do you balance all of that? And that's going to be the question. So that's why you don't have anything in your packet from me on it.
But I do think it's nuanced because, as I shared this with Ms. Paradise earlier privately, that, a lot of these Airbnbs, people take better care of it than if it were a long-term rental, to be honest, right? Because they're cleaned, they're maintained on a more regular basis. And so to not, that it needs to be, it's going to be a difficult, but I think it's also going to be nuanced and is not clear cut as well, because it's, and again, if it is as profitable, right? So a lot of those condos in Atlanta were not for Airbnb would just be empty. And people would be foreclosing on because it's hard to rent, and the price point is, especially in a market like that where you have a lot of new kind of apartment buildings, so sometimes it's not just would you like to have them as a neighbor, it is what do you want your neighborhood to look like in 2, 3, 4 years and the maintenance of it.
Yeah, I think, and the most important thing is not reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Look at these other municipalities that have taken it on and what parameters they gave. I do know 3 years ago, and I'm just talking about what I'm talking about, certain employers were just having fits with this remote working. They were just, and then hybrid, how are we going to let our employees, that genie is out of the bottle. And this Airbnb and this, the one with the housing, this digital age that we've gone into, is off the chain, and it's not going to ever not be off the chain. So just keep that in mind. I think we can give it structure that.
And not to be classist, also that, it's okay for, I'm fine with whoever moves in next to me if I'm in a nice neighborhood for the masters for the week. Right? But I don't want somebody else to have that same income because they can't rent out a big old house for $40,000. And I think that is something that we just also need to be conscious of.
You well put. Right.
Is we've gone through the things that I had ticked off for tonight. Is there anything that would else that we need to work on prior to getting this in the final draft form and coming back to y'all for a public hearing? Are y'all good with it coming back to you now?
Coming back to us, that's our recommendations being sent to the.
I send the recommendations, or he's already got the rest of them. We get another draft copy. We put that out to you for y'all to actually to review again and get public comment on and make a recommendation to council.
I think the only thing I think we had left hanging a little bit was including the riverfront, and I think it was downtown mixed use too. And was it mixed? What was it? It was.
I don't know that we ever settled on that different. The downtown mixed use
one
mixed
and
use two, and then adding the third one.
If we needed to add a third one for the riverfront, or if it was because when we were talking, some of the things that we would maybe be okay with, and I think it was mixed use two, we weren't so sure about would we be okay with it on the riverfront or vice versa. I can't remember whichever way.
Now remember, most of the riverfront property
Yeah.
is in a PUD.
Oh, that's right, outside of the PUD.
So,
Okay.
that controls that property.
Okay. And but I guess how much of it isn't, and then what would that?
I'm not for sure without looking at the map.
Okay, that'd be the only question, is to make sure that we have that's in keeping with the PUD and what we would like it to be.
So what I'm hearing is it's okay to move forward. with
Yes,
it.
please. Mhm.
And that's it for me, Madam Chairman.
All right, so with that, we can have a water break, whatever you choose to do break for about 10 minutes. And we'll